I say every one of these times where somebody comes towards us and we either want to run and hide or, think we're in some sort of trap, that's for us. That vibe of a trap, a vibe of supposed to, ought to, have to, all those things. That vibe should be, it can be an indicator that, ooh, I'm putting something on this. I'm putting something on this. So it's that place of self discovery. It's all for you. Nobody's coming at you doing anything to you.
Mhm.
It's all for you to be able to just discover more of who you are today. Are you hiding from yourself? Are you covered up in shoulds, supposed tos, have tos, ought tos? Are those necessary or needed? In today's conversation, we're going to look at that, explore it together, and also come up with a few how to's on what you could do. So, welcome to today's webinar on Are you hiding from yourself? Are you hiding from yourself? So, I would like to hear from you guys. What what did you hear about? What did you hear when you read the title to get you to make time in your day to come and have a conversation or just to hear about that, if anything? And I'd love to just if it hit something. And I'm gonna make a couple of notes so I make sure and address those. Are you hiding from yourself? Yes.
I don't know that it actually pushed a button, but I'm always suspicious of maybe being unaware of other things that I could be made aware of. First of all, I always enjoy your webinars, but I also thought, you never know what you're not seeing about, your own life and your own self. So it's probably a good idea to tune in. And that was the thought I had.
Great, because I think there's always more to be explored. All because we're ever evolving beings and there's always more to be explored. And also, we're not what people have told us we are. And if we are, a big deal, but that's not the whole job description of your presence on the planet. you know and we're multifaceted, so we have so many ways of being, growing, and evolving that we can discover more and more and more. And I love the idea of discovering more and more and more and more, and it not in the uh kind of not in the vein that I could be a problem and I need to fix it. What I mean? It could just be more of your authentic nature and just more of what's a fit for you. And that's what we're going to talk about today too. So thank you for that. Yes, yes.
So, with the work that I've been doing, I don't even like to call it work. I call it just a process of uncovering. I didn't realize how much I was hiding from myself and how long I've been doing it, even though I had an inkling, but it's been kind of staggering. And so I'm excited to even look more closely and directly at that because every time, without fail, that I do uncover an aspect of where I'm hiding from myself, something huge opens up as a result. And I just want more of that.
Yes. Yes. I think that's such a good point that when you discover something about yourself, it can open you to an entirely new universe, an entirely new reality, an entirely new space to grow into, check out, test it, play with it. Love that. I love that.
My first thought that it was something that I was hiding from myself, it was a bad thing that I didn't want to look at. And then the other thing I thought of was that it occurred to me was that it's things about me that I could express that would be to my benefit that I don't. So
Yeah.
That's that too.
Excellent. 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 Okay. So this kind of topic of you know how authenticity is such a hot topic in all these kind of circles, and we kind of wonder what's authentic, what's authentic, what's authentic, what's we kind of search for it. But I think it's a great idea to kind of see what we could uh just what feels, how does the word authentic hit you, and does that, what kind of vibe does that have for you? And it might just be, you know, word salad mumbo jumbo, but it's a point where we're going to start to explore, like, does it have a, what's the vibe when you think about you, authentic to you?
Yeah, I guess that's one of those words that I think of by what it's not, you know. I mean,
Hang on.
I think like, so what is authenticity? Okay, it's not being inauthentic. Okay, and so when I think inauthentic, I think um mask wearing, sometimes for a good cause, being nice or getting along and the things that we do. And but then I also think of, the negative sides, people who, you know, have hidden agendas, or maybe agendas they're not even aware of, who, they're not forthcoming about what it is they want from you and that kind of thing. Um, and I guess, like as you said, the thing about, what are you hiding from yourself? I think maybe like me, and we were thinking, okay, well, we're not seeing this stuff we need to fix, like you said. Um, I think when you're kind of unaware, floating in unaware, that's not necessarily being inauthentic. I think that there's more deviant, being devious when you're inauthentic. I think that's all I can come up with.
If there's intentionality in it, or
There you go. There you
yeah,
go.
yeah, the
Alice
most,
of thought.
yes, yes, totally, totally.
Well, for me, being authentic is not editing everything that's going to come out of my mouth. It's like if I'm in a conversation and I am moved to say something, and there's a difference between being moved to say something and having a thought about saying something. For me. So, and sometimes it comes out and it's like, ooh, did I say that? And I either, I can apologize, or I can say, well, if I overstep, whatever I need to say to the person I'm having the conversation with. But the less I can think about it, the more authentic it is, because it's not coming from my thoughts. My thoughts are not authentic as far as I'm concerned. They're either about the past or the future. So if that's what I'm going to be talking to you about, then I'm talking about the past or the future. I'm not talking about me right now. And so, I mean, there's lots of reasons that I choose to do as little as possible of being in the future and the past. There's all kinds of benefits to doing it in the present. But one of them is that piece about being authentic. It's my true voice that's coming through.
I love
And
that.
I remember at the beginning being amazed that I had one.
A voice?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that I could use to have relationships and have ideas or have suggestions. Anything. I could say what I felt was true for me, but it's important to me to identify it as that. Like, this isn't the truth. This is what I see as happening right now. Now, if you've got a different take on it, I'd love to talk about it. So I'll stop. That's a great shirt, by the way.
Yes, I love that. I love that. It's like, what about if authenticity, that you're truly authentic when you don't have you on your mind? I was like going, wow, wouldn't that take a lot of thought out of the existence of living? That you don't have to struggle to be authentic. You don't have to work at being authentic. It's just, I kind of like the idea that if I have me on my mind, I'm swirling in a lot of stuff that has been like an earthly add-on.
And I find when I get stuck in that, I'm going around in a circle again. If I'm looking at things as, well, how does this affect me? And what does this mean? And what's going to happen? And I can hear it. It's all that thinking that has nothing to do with, I'm sitting here right now on this webinar and I'm just doing great. What else is there?
Yeah. What else is there? I love the idea too, like we were just saying about true authenticity is when you don't have you on your mind, to let you know that if you have you on your mind, you're in a bunch of concepts and ideas and report carding of what kind of human you are. Does that make sense? Like you're kind of checking in with these suggested norms or cultural norms or family norms or old identities, or which is all in the big old balloon of thinking, you know. Exactly. You're not your job title. I mean, none of that. You are none of that, none of the identities. So yeah, I just love that. And especially I love the idea of compassionate reflection, but certainly compassionate reflection would not be around I'm a problem and I need a problem. I'm a problem that needs to be solved. That would not be compassionate reflection. That would not be compassionate reflection at all.
I have a problem that needs to be solved.
Yes, exactly.
I'm trying to solve stuff that's none of my business. It's going to get solved. I just have to wait and be curious.
I kind of like the idea of like the only problem that needs to be solved is believing there's a problem that needs to be solved, you know. Kind of in that, because otherwise you'll just respond to what's coming towards you, you know, to be dealt with in life. You can have a smoother ride. So in that place about, are you hiding from yourself? I think a place to kind of go and look is giving yourself the spaciousness to check in with yourself about things like before you say yes, about things you just find yourself doing, you know, kind of like the old fable about cutting off the butt of the pot roast. Well, I don't know. Nobody ever asked me why we cut off the butt of the pot roast, other than it didn't fit in great granny's pot, you know. I mean, you know, there's so much of that carried forward without question stuff. And I think that's a great place to you know, crack the door open and just do a check-in with you. Do a check-in with you. So when you really get these invitations or opportunities, or you feel the need to say yes, when something in your body is like contracting, like recoiling from the idea. Do y'all ever have that situation where you get an invitation and your body kind of recoils, except you rethink it and go and whatever, override that recoil, and for what reasons? Usually it's in a should, supposed to, need to, ought to, I got to get along, I got to be nice. What am I leaving out? What am I leaving out? When your gut is saying one thing and all of a sudden the legislative body inside you comes in and puts it up for review.
It's good for me.
Good for me. Okay. And when it comes to you and it says, "Oh, it's good for me," what's the vibe? This is can be moment to moment invitation, but it's like when it say, "Oh, it's good for me," is it an up vibe or a neutral vibe or kind of? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I need to do this because it's good for me. It's
Oh,
not,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. So when and am I hiding from myself? It's like you get that door to who you are today gets an opportunity to be discovered just by giving yourself a check-in on what is my motivation for this? What's my motivation for this? I want to be seen as a good person. I want to be seen as hardworking. Well, I'll give you the clue. It's great to be hardworking. I love being hardworking, but I'll give you the clue that if you think that's a badge to carry, everybody in the world will give you their work to do. So while they go off on vacation. So don't worry. Think associate hardworking and being a good person is tandem. But hard work. I thought about that this morning. I was like, gosh, I really did. I've had a job one way or another since I was 14 and plenty before that. But I was going, wow, I remember at 14 that having a job for me was like freedom. It was a gateway to freedom. And I was like, wow. It kind of showed me you could have any mindset regarded to work. It could be a yoke, it could be anything, but I could check my own motivation as I was considering this topic on it's not good or bad. Hard work is not good or bad, but what is unique to hard work with me is that I couldn't believe I put such a meaning on it. That it was a big old hall pass to freedom.
One thing, I have something, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tying into your recent question and in the previous one is noticing how sometimes we might identify that with a role, and that because we wear this role as an idea, as a concept, then that means that certain things should be said yes to quite easily or not even questioned. It's just an automatic yes. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, that has happened for so long. It's like, oh, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm an instructor, I'm here to help people. And then the mind creates this identity around it, even in the face of situations that come up that, without even going into the mind story, the body, the self instantly knows if it wants to do something or not. But it gets circumvented by this pattern behavior. So your questions are really opening up my eyes to this.
Thank you so much. And it happened so fast. I think that's the part that happens so fast. It's like we don't give ourselves 1 second, 2 second, 3 seconds just to consider the invitation before it's like that knee-jerk reaction of habitual reaction, you know? And so even when we take a little bit of a pause and check in with just the feeling of it. And I've used the word vibe just because it kind of addresses something other than the mind. You can kind of just feel it, and I think that can be really your north needle. Your north needle in shedding like all these ideas of who you need to be, just because you've always been this way in your mind, or just because they expect you to be a certain way. And then even kind of can oftentimes wake you up to fear of what you fear the most, of like being rejected, or what if they don't like me, or what if it causes a situation or a pushback or something. Is like that can all be talked through. That can all be talked through. It's not a one and done. And I guess you know what? It's not an absolute, but if somebody is a one and done, it's like, gosh, should I have been giving them that much shelf space on my top shelf anyway, if they won't come together for a conversation, you know?
Yeah, so I have a current situation that I'm in. It's interesting. It just falls really perfect for today. But my next door neighbors, they're planning a trip, a week-long trip to California. The wife told me that the plan is to do construction on a house of a family member's. It's to go there to do construction. My husband doesn't want to go unless I go. And it's like a 20-hour drive, which I can only handle about 5 hours at a shot. Anyways, so it'd take a couple days to get there for me comfortably. Anyways, the three of them are trying to find a way to convince me to go on this trip because my husband doesn't want to go unless I go. So I feel this pressure when it's a solid no for me, 100% no. It's not a vacation. They're plating it as a vacation, but the truth of it is they want my husband's skills, tools, knowledge, experience to help build this wall. And so they're coming over tomorrow to kind of do an intervention to convince me to do this. And it's a solid no. So I feel like, right, it's been weighing on my mind the last 3 days since I heard about this, that, I said, no, thank you. And that they're doing this intervention tomorrow. So I'm thinking about approaching it with really deep listening and hear everybody out and propose, why don't I stay here and maintain the two households, keep the pets here, because we'd have to travel with all the pets and all the things. And so I'm hopeful that I can get buy-in, but it's just funny because I feel pressure. And then I'm like, well, I can't feel pressure unless I believe that I feel pressure. So there's this conflict, right? I don't want to go. I'm not going to go. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I know they can't make this pressure inside of me. So it's funny how the mind is just repeating, how is this going to play out? And how am I going to navigate this, authentically, as we talked about earlier, and owning that I want to stay here, that you guys can have a great trip without me. You could drive the straight 20 hours and have a great time there and back.
So I think this is a great venue for like you have a safe community to kind of just shares like what does your mind make up about you saying needing to say more than no thanks. I think those are those few seconds of asking about the where does your mind go in there that creates a trap.
Yeah. It's these images in my mind that there's going to be this pressure that you have to go, or this isn't gonna, the wall won't get erected and the baby that's coming won't have the baby room. I mean, it's so many layers thick, and I don't know these people. I mean, I know my neighbors, but I don't know their family. So I'm like, how did I get scooped up into this story?
Yeah, it's really, really, really. How did you get folded inside that omelet? It's like here's the start.
Yeah. I mean, I've said no gently, nicely, and been very firm on it. So I've said it many a times, and then to find out that they're going to come and ambush me, my brain thinks, right? Which then it thinks fear and then protect. So I think that's what's fired off a lot of energy put into this whole scenario, when it's so simple that how can I play this in a way that it's a win for everybody?
Yeah.
Now, if you knew, let's put it this way, if you knew there would be no consequence, I'm saying consequences in quotes, no consequences, and you knew you're a wonderful, good person, what would you say?
And have a safe trip. I will stay home and protect the 2 homes, checking on them twice a day. Well, I mean, I'll live here, obviously. Their home is, they're living in a trailer while they're building a house, and they really, we're in the middle of winter, and they really, leaving would be, it would just be easier if someone stayed here and maintained the 2 properties, I guess is.
And is that something you want to do?
There's a part of it that would be outside of my wheelhouse, meaning if we get snow or some wild storm, which is very possible, I would have to call and hire someone to plow and do that sort of thing. But it's not like I'm not capable of making a phone call.
Great. So
The only thing I'm afraid of.
So that's even a way to dial it back on, okay, if you're willing to just be eyes on the house, what if you could even abbreviate that? Does it feel more authentic to say, I'll call you if I discover something? Or do you feel like you need to resolve their situation?
I think the thing that rises to the top the greatest, and it parallels to what you were pointing to earlier, is hurting their feelings. Really, it's about, at the end of the day, it's like not wanting to reject them. Because I like them. They're great people. They're amazing. We've created such an incredible bond over the last year and a half. And I don't want to be the one that's, dampens this whole idea and concept. So.
Well, what if we take that's a pretty heavy burden. I mean, even associating, God, that doesn't work for me, to rejection. Say, you're at the buffet table and somebody goes, gosh, do you want these beets? It's like, that'd be good news for me, but I don't know if it's good news for others. So it's not a rejection of their cooking. It just doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
So that's even it's even a way to kind of peel off more ideas and concepts and identity, even not who you need to be, ought to be, or supposed to be, but even making up that it's be perceived as rejection. That you got to take responsibility that that's what you bring to the, that's the layer that comes from in you, and that goes on top of your authenticity.
Right. I know I can't manage their feelings. I can't manage how they respond to my idea of staying back and taking care of the properties, maintaining them. So I managing my own feelings is my job and my only job. So staying authentic would be to hear them out and ask to sleep on it if I feel that that's the best way to do it, just to keep things light, or just say, let's brainstorm, let's find a way that we can get the wall built.
And to be real fair, Catherine, I feel like you're taking it on.
Right, that's true.
It's like, I love that idea of like, nobody can put anything in your hand if it's not extended. So it's like, maybe it's not yours to take on. But this is all in this place about really discovering more of ourselves, going, man, I feel like I gotta fix it for her and make it right. And this isn't, I'm not picking on you. It's just a human nature thing where we get offered a choice, and do we choose what is a match for my vibe, or do I take it on?
I like the word choice, because the way it's been told how they're going to ambush me tomorrow, I feel like there's no choice, right? You see the way I'm describing it is like an ambush. I feel the way I'm fortune telling, expecting it to come out, is that I don't have choice. I think, again, that's my mind and my brain protecting itself and feeling uncertain and not having agency to how I want to, what I want to do the 1st of March.
Right. I think it's like, what if it could be so simple that we could say no and it didn't mean anything?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not my responsibility. Okay.
No, but you just say no and it doesn't mean a thing, because you got to see that if it means something, we're assigning meaning or interpretation to it. And you know, it's not like the conversation, it's not like a hard stop, like you have to fight for it. That's crazy to think you have to fight for a no. You can just say no,
Yeah.
and it could mean nothing. Except I just say it, you know, doesn't work. It just,
What's interesting is perceiving it as an ambush. I could feel the energy behind saying no being very abrupt and very defensive, where if I feel like I have choice, it'd be like at the buffet, no thank you to, I don't know, I love food, I love beets, but saying no thank you to, I don't know, pig's feet. Like, no thank you. You know, it has a different feeling. It has me feeling as though I have a choice to try it, put it on my plate, not put it on my plate. And I know that when I say no, it's gonna be heartfelt, genuine, authentic, loving, supportive. And yeah, so that helps a lot. Thank you.
it can get real simple. It can, if we just kind of settle into what am I making of this? Yeah, I love that your language, because it was like first was intervention.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was like, oh my God, you know, it's
Cornered in the back of a corner, and that's normal for humans or animals to feel reactive, right? But when I feel like I have choice, I feel free and light and open to hearing what their plans are, and feeling excited for them to build this wall and do all the things. I know my husband's like, oh, we're going to go to the wine country, we're going to do all these fun things, and he omitted that whole building a wall. And my neighbor friend, she's like, oh no, we're staying at family's house and we're doing all this construction. I'm like, that's not a vacation. Anyways, thank you.
and the idea that you can say no and still maintain connection.
Yeah.
I think because it's like, it's not rejection, like you said, but a lot of times we think if we say no, or that doesn't work for me, or I'll have, you know, just to speak for myself, to make a choice on my behalf, it felt like there would be consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And it was of the punitive nature. That's where my mind would go.
Yeah.
They won't be my friend. They're not going to ever ask me again. You know, I'm a terrible person. Oh, you're selfish. Who are you, little Misty, to think of yourself first? You know, I mean, all that kind of, you know, stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeti.
Yeah, thank you for putting it out there. I mean, I felt so uncomfortable. I still feel like I was so tight listening to all that. It was just like, I mean, I don't know that I would even show up for the intervention. I mean, you don't need an intervention. Nobody's, you know,
Leave a note on the counter.
and
See
yeah,
you
go
later.
out and enjoy yourself. But can I respond to that? Is this okay? Because I would just say if they're coming over and with this idea that there's an intervention, I would just say to them, what about no, don't you understand? Flip it to them. You don't have to be on the defense. Let them examine what they're doing. It's nuts. And I'm saying this from, I mean, I've been there, I've done that. And just this week, um, well, just last month, I met a person here in Durham who, you know, I'd never met her before. And we hit it off really well. She's an artist, and we got together, and she lives here only part of the year. And so we got together, and I invited her here, and we're having coffee, and I gave her all these ideas. She was saying she was looking for this and this, and gave her all these ideas. Okay. And it was nice, you know. And then she left, and she was going back to her home in Mexico. And she texted me and said that she was going to be coming back on February 13th and meeting some friends who were coming down to see her show and blah, blah, blah. And could they stay at our guest house? And I was like, what? And so I wrote back and I said, I think that there's some confusion. We don't have a guest house. I mean, we have a guest room, you know, in our main house. And what she had seen, thinking it was the guest house, is my husband's music studio. Okay. So, and there's no water in there or anything. You can't really stay there. So I got into this thing about, I don't want, no, I don't even know these other people. And why am I opening the house to them? And we have enough stuff going on in our life right now with other stressors and things, and with our daughter and treatment and stuff. And so I just was like, I said I'd have to let her know, you know, and I gave myself a few days, and then I thought, why don't I need to tell her sooner than later so she can make an alternate plan? Because no, the answer is no.
Mhm,
And so
mhm.
I did. I texted her and I said, um, right now I don't have the bandwidth to have. I said my daughter's having her second chemo on the 6th, and I just don't know what we're going to be needing to do for her and our grandson and stuff. And I don't know that I even had to explain that. The real thing
Right.
was no. And so I wrote that, and she wrote back and was like, "Oh, great." She said, "We can just, we're going to be staying in an Airbnb the rest of the weekend, so we'll just extend it another night." It was like, yeah. But
Not the
I
end of the
just felt
world.
it was like
It's
so,
not the end of the world our mind makes it up to be, it's like, it's
yeah.
just
And I spent that energy, and I hear you spending so much energy on this, and there's not, you're perfectly entitled to say, I'm not interested in going on right now. I want, I'd like to, I'm just not interested,
yeah.
period. And
So
why waste time?
in that time, it's like, we get to grow ourselves. I say every one of these times where somebody comes towards us and we either want to run and hide or, think we're in some sort of trap, that's for us. That's a place where for us to check in and to it would that feeling of a vibe, that vibe of a trap, a vibe of supposed to, ought to, have to, all those things. That vibe should be, it can be an indicator that, ooh, I'm putting something on this. I'm putting something on this. So it's that place of self-discovery of when you ask yourself those questions. Why am I having a reaction to this? What have I put in place between me and my authentic answer? What have I put in the place in that space between me and my authentic answer? And that's all, this is like self-discovery. It's all for you. Nobody's coming at you doing anything to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's all for you to be able to just discover more of who you are today. Who you were 5 minutes ago was that person. So it doesn't have to be a long time. It doesn't have to be when you were 5 years old. It can be 5 minutes ago. And that's how inconsistent we can give ourselves permission to live. It was even when you go, you know what, it was a fit for me when I said yes. Now it's just not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's giving yourself kind of that space to expand with a check-in on expanding into you, and really giving yourself permission to check in with you, and then again, like I said, be able to see what have I loaded onto this thing.
I'm just, as you're talking, I'm aware of how I think particularly females in the society are so conditioned to be pleasers and servers and supporting others. When I was pregnant um, with our daughter, I was living in Mexico and came up to Chicago for an ultrasound. And I was considered a high risk pregnancy. So I came up for this ultrasound and I went to have it. And then the doctor checked me and he said, "I'm sorry, I can't do this." He was Catholic, and it was a Catholic hospital. And he said, "No," he said, "we just can't do this because the baby's turned and we can't take a risk, or, you know, and because of your high risk and your cervix and da da da." He said, "I just can't do this ultrasound." And I was like, "I traveled here for this, what is this?" So we left the hospital and I called someone else and found a doctor who was willing to do it. And so I was going to call the doctor to say, oh, he said, come back like in 10 days. Maybe the baby will turn again. And so, oh, you know what it was? It was the amniocentesis. That was it. That he wouldn't put the needle in, not an ultrasound. They used the ultrasound to guide the needle. So anyway, I found a doctor who had written a book about amniocentesis, and so he said yes, he could see me and do it. So I was gonna call the doctor to say I wasn't coming back in 10 days, and that I found someone else to do it. And my mother said, oh, don't tell him that. Don't tell him that you found someone else to do it and hurt his feelings. And I was like, what?
Tell the truth.
And that's the message I always got, and to
Yeah.
me, the truth is good enough.
But I think exactly, Yeti, what you said, where you said like females are typically assigned to be nice or people pleasers and all that. I mean, even males are assigned to be providers and helpers. And I mean, everybody, all these identities that we carry,
Right.
they're all loaded with all these
For sure.
cultural norms are supposed to, ought to, have to. It's like we were coming back to the conversation. So it's that place about, we can shed all those layers of ideas and concepts to be able to really be true. Oh, this word hit me yesterday, and it was like authentic alignment, in a way of aligning with what works for you, and then not being a reason for separation. And that might be a real way, a real edge for people to consider that authentic alignment is, it sounds like some sort of cheesy new age woo-woo word, but where where you can align with what matters to you and what's a fit for you and still maintain connection. It doesn't have to mean something.
Oh my God, and what I identified most with my youth was the idea that I had to, if somebody blindsides me with something they want me to do, instead of just, saying no or whatever, I would come up with how I could give them a pound of flesh in return, since I wasn't going to get what they wanted. It makes me understand that when you're talking about being authentic, one of the things transitions from me at 50, and now I'm almost 67. And what's happened in the interim is, thanks to people like you, Sherry, is that realizing that, the more these people become aware of who I authentically am because I'm responding exactly the way I feel, they get to know, they have a better intuition on their own of what I'm going to say before they hit me with something like this. And I think the biggest liberation I've found so far, because it was authentic, but it took a long time, many years, was humor. To use like, just laugh and go, oh, hell to the no. There's no way I'm doing this. You guys, I love you much, but you have fun. I'm
Give me a pap smear in the root canal. I'm staying home,
Exactly. And it was really hard to do this, especially with family members. But I finally learned that they can they're recalibrating to who I am over the last 10 years. Once I quit, lying down on the street and saying, no, I'm not going to raise all four of your children, but you can run over me.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of how I felt about my life a lot of the time. And I realized through, coming to your seminar for one of it and other things that, it's not, there's no penalty box for being who I am and not wanting to participate. And, they didn't think very bad about it. They must, they had a lot going on with themselves to ask me to do major things that I might not want to participate in.
Mm-hmm.
They're not having to pay me back for asking me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the thing that has been the biggest shortcut for me is laughter. Just, going with my first, like, oh no, I'm not. No way. See ya. And
Yeah.
But
It's another great way about to utilize humor for it's not gloom and doom. You know, we carry it as gloom and doom and consequence or gloom and intervention, amputation, all these kind of sacrificing kind of ways is like, yeah, no.
because I did go through a phase when I was angry with these people for asking me this stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So it did
How
make it
dare you? Yeah.
like, good God, y'all, what, but I do think, yeah, that being able to progress through to just laughing about it, I think that's what, for me, and that's just me, keeps the separation from happening. When they realize that I'm a goof, I'm not doing that.
It
And
doesn't mean disconnection.
no, it's
You
not
choose to
personal.
disconnect, but
Yeah, it's not personal, but I'm not
well,
going out.
sometimes it is. Sometimes I don't want to be around them. So yeah, sometimes it's personal.
Okay, okay.
But that's not a problem
That
either,
was always tough. And I felt such pain because I think we've all been there and had that kind of situation where your heart just feels cramped because you're then under all this obligation. And boy, it's sure better to just cut through it and maintain the no. So
Yeah, and really see who is what's the word I'm thinking? All that the shoulda, coulda, oughta, woulda, need to, ought to, have to stuff, it's like we have to really take responsibility that we're perpetuating that. We picked up the baton. We can put the baton down anytime, and just being able to ask ourselves these questions about, what am I making up about saying no to this? Or what if I'm saying, I'd really rather go on this vacation versus that vacation, like it, it can just strictly be in a true to yourself kind of a thing.
One of the things that has helped me, because I've been on the continuum of many of the things that you all have experienced and shared, was to have the voice to say no. And with work I did with a business coach years ago, it started off as a business thing, but turned into a life thing, to where not getting to a place where I feel like where I don't need to defend, justify, or explain. And I can authentically say what I'm feeling, anything that I'm feeling, but I can do it with kindness. And without going into story, the biggest single thing was to just simply break it down. If I wasn't able to use humor, which I still have a hard time with that, I if something's a hard no for me, it's hard for me to have humor injected because of all of the conditioning that I've gone through just to even be able to use the word no.
Mm.
So I've broken it down to just saying, you know, thank you for the invitation, for the offer, but this is just not a fit for me. And it's okay. It doesn't mean anything. Nothing is going to change with our relationship. We're still going to be friends. We're still going to be family. I'm still going to be your consultant and you're going to be my client, but this is just not a fit. And it's okay. And then use silence. Don't say anything afterwards. And that's helped me so much. And this conversation has really helped anchor that so that I can ascend through that into things like, having fun with it, keeping it light. But for things that are sometimes just too difficult, just without getting angry, defensive, or anything like that, that's based on the conditioning of the wiring of the system, of the nervous system, to just say, hey, it's just not a fit. But thank you for this suggestion. Sounds like you all are going to have a great time. Sounds like it could be a great time. I get invitations personally for a lot of things, and um, I'll just have to say that. Sounds like fun, but it's not a fit for me. Not right now.
I love what you said too. It's like, gosh, what if that plays about in our own growth to expand into our who we are today authentically is just to say no or no thanks and resist the need to fill the space following that statement. Yeah, that's for us. That's not for anybody else.
Right.
That's for us. Because the we fill the space. Like
Yeah,
it's
but,
interesting how an uncomfortable feeling needs to be filled with words so often.
but that's such a gentle way of responding, because I used to do volunteer recruitment, for an organization, and phone banking to do it. And a lot of times they would just hang up the phone when when they'd pick up and hear why I was calling, they'd hang up. But one time this woman said, "Oh, thank you so much for asking. But that's not, I'm not able to do that at this time." And it felt so, just, I didn't feel humiliated. I asked, and there was nothing else to say. I said, "Well, thank you so much for hearing me." Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, when you say that, it feels so clean. Next, let's catch the current. Let's roll.
Yeah.
And Sherry, can I ask you? You said before about saying it it was a fit for me at the time, and then what did you say after that? It was a fit for me at the time, but
It just didn't work for me now.
ah,
You know what I mean? But that's in really allowing yourself the spaciousness to check in with yourself.
yeah.
It's like not because you die on the knife, you gave your word, I don't want to be a person that, you see all that, the aftermarket add-ons.
I wrote that one down. That one goes in the box.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
fit for me when I said yes, but it's not today.
Yeah. I know. Isn't it fun how we know when we start to notice how our mind complicates the simplest thing? And that's it's not a problem. We just get to really see where the source of the complication is. It's not your authentic self, because your authentic self, the feeling. And then here comes the mushroom cloud after after you feel like you can't, that your authentic feeling is not a match for what's been for the invitation.
I used to have there's a saying that I heard a long time ago that I'm willing to tell the truth and not be attached to the outcome. Well, this could actually, what I'm realizing is I'm willing to be authentic and not be attached to the outcome, because once I've said yes or no, whatever goes on out there is that person's responsibility, not mine.
True.
And if I can't be quiet long enough for someone else to have whatever response they have, I'm not really sitting with them. I'm just going on about whatever I'm so afraid of, or whatever it is where I got to fill up the space, as opposed to having a conversation, even if it's on the phone. And if it doesn't end well, according to me, somebody got miffed or whatever when they heard my no as a complete answer, waiting 2 or 3 days. Don't try to fix it right now. First of all, there's nothing to fix. And second of all, it doesn't give the other person any, it's like giving them the dignity to be who they are. If I keep talking, they don't know who they are. They don't have the space. I mean, it's my experience. If somebody keeps talking and talking and talking, how am I going to ever look within and go, well, wait a minute, I don't feel that way to what you're trying to make okay. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't hurt me. Or it does hurt me for whatever reason. It's just trying to stay out of my own way.
That's it.
Everybody else is at the same time. Because if I can stay out of my way, I'm sure not going to be in your way.
Yeah. I always love that model of Pavlov's dog. You know what I mean? It's like, so what? If the bell's going to ring and we think we're going to get a treat, but wait a minute. When the habit changes or the pattern changes, it didn't take that long before we realize that it's just a bell and I'm not going to get my treat, so so that kind of would fill that space after. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to come and have this conversation today. It's so wonderful to come in and have this conversation. So just to wrap it up, it's like hopefully there's an invitation for you to check in what your vibe is you're gonna know your answer from your vibe until you let it get complicated. You know, you're gonna know it from the vibe, how it feels. And then just do a little check-in and realize, man, I carry a lot on this yes, or I carry a lot on this no. Oh, that's in my space to clean up. That's nobody else's job. Thank you for coming to today's conversation. Our conversation on are you hiding from yourself? I hope that you heard of some things that will bring you fresh ways of being, fresh ways of feeling, and fresh ways of doing. And just kind of to recap what we talked about, you know, check in with the shoulds. Check in with are you staying in the past or out of the past? You know what's waiting for you is in the present. And also looking, listening, orienting to what's on its way. Not in a way that you need anything, but it's also to keep your head in the direction of what's being presented so you'll see opportunities. Like I always like to talk about, is really check in and what feeds your spirit. Of all the medications in the world, I think that's the best to take daily doses of what feeds your spirit. So thanks again for coming to the conversation. I'm so glad that you took time from your day to take a listen. If you'd like to explore working together, send me an email at sherry@sherryray.com. We can have a sit and sip and just see if working together makes sense. Take care. And if you have anything to share on more of you that you're discovering, please let me know. Be well.